Hi, it's me, and I have a story time today, so it's longer than a hot, sweaty tip for me. It's long, so get comfortable. So I think I'm going to name this story Black Piranhas. Okay, you'll understand as the story goes on. So what happened was I had come back from vacation and I wanted to do my walking excerpt, my walking workout that I do every morning. And because I've missed it for 3 days, but as much fun as I had on vacation, that bed just felt so good. And I thought, I don't know, I'm just going to skip today and I'll start tomorrow. And I'm glad. I'm going to tell you why. Because eventually I did get out of bed and I got ready for work. And I left. As I was leaving, I opened the door and there was garbage on my front step. And I was really upset about it because I had just been bragging that the neighborhood was a little less ghetto than it has been in the past. And now here somebody has put garbage on my front step. So I look down and there's looks like a shopping bag that has a 2-liter, unopened 2-liter of Pepsi in it. And there was, I found out later, and also a smaller, like regular drink size of Pepsi in that bag. And an empty pizza box. And when I say an empty pizza box, it was a Pizza Hut. And there was absolutely no pizza in it at all. There was just a grease-stained circle where there once was a pizza. And I thought, did somebody just come sit on my step in the middle of the night and eat pizza and apparently not wash it down with anything and leave the box? So, I'm very frustrated by it. And I'm walking down the sidewalk and, and I'm going to look. We have one of those cameras that on the doorbell, and so when there's motion, it'll click on and record for a few seconds, and then I'm gonna just see who that was. So I'm gonna see which neighbor or transient person decided that my steps looked like a party place. So I look on the camera and I see a clip at 12:13 a.m. Somebody delivers pizza. I mean, it's definitely a delivery person because she stops, she puts the stuff down, she turns around, she takes a picture of it, which is what they do, and then she gets in her car and leaves. So I'm thinking, this is really weird. So I take the pizza box and the empty pizza box into my house and put it in the garbage, and I put the bag in the house. I'm not sure what I want to do with that. Okay. And I asked my son, because he went to bed after me, and I said, hey, did you order Pizza Hut pizza like at 12:13 this morning? And he was like, no. And I said, well, somebody has. Somebody did. And then somebody ate it and left the empty box. Perhaps it was a cat. I was pretty sure it was a cat because there's a lot of cats in our neighborhood. So I came on into work. And here's the thing. We don't just have that little doorbell camera. We also have a camera that is continuously recording 24/7. Big long story why I felt like we needed that, but we did feel like we needed that. And so I thought, well, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to see what animal. I'm hoping it wasn't just somebody sitting there eating the pizza, making themselves at home. But so I watch it. And I watch it all night long. And when there is movement, there's like a little green space on the timeline. So I did kind of speed up until I got to the green spaces, and then I went to regular time. All night long, nothing. All I could see was like little bugs flying. I think there might have been a little bit of rain. It looked like maybe a little bit of drizzle. So round about 6:20, which is about the time I get up to do my exercises. Around about 6:20, there's a little movement, and I look, I'm watching it, and there are like countless birds. Like, just this is right as the sun was just barely starting to rise. There's all these birds, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh. I counted, and the way the camera is, I couldn't see the pizza box because it was right up against the door. But so I don't know how many birds were like on the box, but all around and in the yard, I lost track at 30 birds, black birds. And I thought, I would have heard that commotion if I was up walking, because I do my exercise right in the living room. And if I had opened the door, all those birds, some of them would have flown. They would have scattered, but I'm afraid they would have come inside. So they were black, solid. Their beaks were black. Everything was black. And I'm thinking, that is crazy. So I then was fascinated. I just watched and watched and watched. And as the sun continued to come up just a little bit more, around 7, there was something else on the sidewalk that leads down to the sidewalk by the street. And I thought, that looks like a spider, like a huge spider. So I zoomed in on it. And you know what it was? It was another bird. It was just a smaller bird. It was like a wren, not really small enough to be a finch, but it was a wren. And it was at that point that I realized how big those blackbirds were. They were crows. Just feasting on this pizza. And as I was watching it, like every now and then they would fly away and then they'd come back. And then every now and then some of them would like drag a piece out into the yard, and then they'd all be pecking. There would be a piece on this side of the yard and a piece on this side of the yard. There'd be groups of them pecking. And then they'd fly away. And then they'd come back. And then like every now and then I wouldn't see any more pizza, and I would think, okay, well, they've surely eaten all the pizza by now. But no. I mean, they just, every now and then, another piece of pizza would show up in the yard, and they would just all go pecking on it. Sometimes they'd pull it apart, and there'd be a little piece over here, and a little piece over here, or a little piece down there, and they'd all kind of scatter around and pecking until it was gone. And I mean, gone. When I left, there was no sign of pizza other than the grease stain on the pizza box. So, and I'm thinking to myself, there's a lot of cats in my neighborhood. And for that many birds, that was just like, those cats there were so many of them. However, around 7, a couple minutes after 7, they all fly off. And I see a cat just kind of walking on down, ambling on down the sidewalk down there close to the street. But that cat didn't try to hurt those birds at all. So my mother always said there's strengths in numbers. So perhaps the fact, because there was such a flock of them, the birds outnumbered the cat, and the cat just thought, I ain't playing with that. So he walked on down the street, didn't even try to get the pizza. And I'm glad it wasn't a cat, because dairy isn't really good for cats, and there was a lot of cheese from what I could see on that pizza. So cat goes on down, the birds keep coming back. This went on for a couple hours. So if you've ever wondered how long would it take a flock of crows to completely devour a pizza, medium-sized pizza from Pizza Hut, the answer is right around 2 hours, because they came about 6:20 is when I first started seeing them. And then they would scatter and come back. About 8:20, that's when I stopped seeing them. But even all the way up until when I left for work, and even then after I left, they would come back in little small numbers. And when I say small numbers, I'm saying 7 to 10. Okay? So, but yeah, that's what happened. And they completely devoured it. And remember when I was a kid, I used to watch cartoons and stuff, and there would always be a cartoon about piranha-infested waters, and they would put something in the water, and when they brought it back out, there would just be a skeleton. There wouldn't even be a skeleton sometimes. It would just be completely gone because the piranhas just ate it. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm calling this story Black Piranha. It was like watching an episode of The Birds from Alfred Hitchcock horror film. It was absolutely fascinating, but also kind of disturbing. So there's that. That's what happened. So I wanted to watch and see how long. This is just a weird twist, as the birds are gone. Now the birds are gone, and I'm watching to see if they'll come back. So I'm kind of like putting it on fast speed. And guess what? Postal Service. You can believe this. The post office guy comes in his little van, and he stops right in front of my house because it's a walking route. He gets out, and there's a package of some kind, and I think whatever was in the package was leaking, because he takes it out and he's just kind of wiping all over it, and then and he sets it down on the sidewalk, and then he gets in and you can tell he's kind of wiping his hands off and stuff, and then he goes and delivers letters, and then he comes back. And I watched all of it. I just watched that package sit there. Just sat there for however long it took him to do the route. And then he comes back and he gets back into the van and he reaches in and he gets something and he's reaching in and like I zoom in, but I can't really see exactly what he's doing because he's inside the van. And then he comes back outside of the van and he takes the package and he picks it up. And he transfers it from one hand to the other and then back. And then he gets in the van. And then he reaches his hand, and he has it in this hand. And he reaches his hand through the open window and then puts it in this hand. And then, however he does it, so now he's like with the car in the van with the package just kind of like hanging out the window. And he drives off. But guess what he did? Whatever he used to wipe that off, he just left it on my sidewalk. Yeah. I was like, what's that now? So I zoom in on that. Old dirty rag. Thank you, U.S. Post Office, for leaving your old dirty rag in front of my house on the sidewalk. That was lovely. I mean, we're trying not to be ghetto here. You're not helping. All right. That's my story. Black piranhas. Listen, they say crows are good pets, that they'll remember you and they'll bring you gifts and all that kind of stuff. But they scare me because those black beady eyes, and they just look so mean, and they're always moving their head around and stuff like that, and they will devour a pizza. Now you know. Black piranha. Nevermore. All right. That's it. Bye.